And I also read that you originally started writing historical romance because you were inspired by a specific hunting scene, and that a lot of your books are really grounded in history. So I would love to know, can you tell us a little bit about your research process and how it fits into your writing craft?
Yes. So the first Scottish book I wrote, When a Laird Loves a Lady, I had been studying Richard the Lionheart. So, a little bit different. um, I don't know actually how I ended up in the Scottish period from there, except I saw this post on Facebook and it was about these children who were searching for a mother for their father who was a widower. And they had posted an anonymous post without telling their father. And from there, I got this idea. I was like, oh, it would be such a cool story if you wrote about children, but in the medieval time. And they were searching for their father, and it kind of went from there. And I did end up actually writing that book later. It is not this book, it is not in this series. But that kind of sparked my interest in, really researching the medieval period. And so I basically just bought it was more when people were buying books still to do research instead of going straight to the internet. I basically just started buying, books and going to the library and researching the medieval period. And I knew I wanted to set my first book on the border between England and Scotland. I knew I wanted the heroine to have to travel far away from her home to because she wanted distance between her father and her home. So then I researched, what clans were where. And that really was what took me to the Highlands. And then from there, I had to research the individual clans and kind of decide what clan I wanted to, base the first book on. And obviously, then the first book became one and two and three. And really originally I was only going to write four medievals, and that first series was 10, and I would have to sit here and count them to tell you how many medieval books I've written now. A lot. I love medieval because I love action and the do or die situations, and everything was just on such a grander scale. Every decision pretty much had do or die consequences for these people. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy writing the fight scenes, but I also enjoy the utter loyalty that men and really showed to their women who they loved, And so anyway, and so currently when I start a medieval series, I have a lot of the research books already, but I will, really research the area, and I will research what's going on in history that aligns with sort of the idea that I had, and can I use it and weave it into my story. And sometimes it'll start the opposite way. I'll research what's going on in history, and then I'll think, can I make a story idea out of this? Does this spark a story idea for me? And then I'll sort of build it out from there. So, and I've also been known, and I have said this in the past, sometimes I will just be having a conversation or reading a book, and I'll get an idea for a scene, and then I'll build a book series around that. And I'll look at the history, decide on what year I want to set it in, and look at the history and see what's going on. Is it interesting? Can I make conflict out of it? Can I make a whole series out of it?
Yeah. And when you say you have a scene in your head, is that usually like, two people in a room or in whatever setting you're envisioning, or is it more like you're seeing like a painting and you're like, okay, what do I want to do with this?
I would say it's more like a painting. Like for When a Laird Loves a Lady, it was my original idea was I pictured this scroll, with a dagger stuck in it, where these children had written out that they were searching for a mother for their widowed father. In my first Regency book I ever wrote, I pictured a hunting scene, and it was really just the heroine dashing through the woods. And she was a really good on horseback, which was unusual for the time. And she was riding astride and not side saddle. So I get these scenes in my head, and I just kind of built it from there. So yeah, I
Yeah,
would
that's so
definitely
interesting.
say.
Yeah. I love hearing how everyone how the inspiration works because we're all so different,
Oh,
from
I know. We really are. It is interesting to hear it. I agree.